You know this sound, right? Of course you do. It's Mozart's Turkish March. It's bright, it's playful, and yeah, it's one of the most famous pieces of music ever written. I mean, we've heard it everywhere, haven't we? In piano recitals, movies, you name it. It's one of those pieces that just feels familiar. It's a comfortable, known part of our world. And when I say wrong, I don't mean just, a few clumsy notes here and there. I mean something much deeper. What if we're fundamentally misunderstanding what Mozart was even trying to do? Now, let's be super clear. This is not about bashing pianists. Not at all. It's about a much bigger, much trickier issue. It's about a system of teaching that can sometimes value copying over questioning, leading even the most brilliant musicians down a path where they stop thinking for themselves. So let's start with the problem itself. Why is it that so many performances of this iconic piece sound, well, pretty much the same? And this right here is the heart of it. It's this cycle. A teacher plays a passage a certain way, the student learns to imitate it perfectly, and then guess what? That student becomes a teacher who passes on the exact same interpretation. After a while, that one way of playing isn't just an interpretation anymore. It gets treated like it's a fact. You know what happens when you do something over and over without asking why you're doing it? You slip into autopilot. The notes might be perfect, but the intention, the meaning, that gets lost. The music ends up being more like an empty exercise than a living, breathing creation. Okay, so how do we possibly break out of this cycle of just empty repetition? Well, to really get our heads around this, we're going to need a powerful metaphor, and we're borrowing this one from the philosopher O.G. Rose. Here's the idea. Think of sheet music not as the music itself, but as a map of the music. A map is great, right? It gives you directions, it shows you the layout, but it can never, ever capture the full, rich experience of the actual territory. You know, the mountains, the rivers, the feeling of the wind. The score is just a model, a simplification. The music is the reality. And this quote from Rose just nails it. No map is the place itself. It's an abstraction. The moment we mistake that map for the actual territory, we totally limit our own experience and our own exploration. And we can see this exact problem right here in Mozart's score. On the left, that's the common, edited version, the map most students get, which shows 4 totally equal notes. But on the right, in the text, Mozart's original, you see a grace note, an appoggiatura. So why would an editor change that? Well, usually to clean things up for students, or maybe to make it fit the newer, more percussive pianos that came later. But that one tiny grace note isn't just a different note, it suggests a completely different performance. It's a leaning note. It implies a little emphasis and then a softer release. It's a tiny detail of expression that gets completely flattened out and lost when the mapmaker makes all the notes equal. This all connects back to a really core philosophical point from Rose. The idea of the music, which is represented by that simplified score, is always a smaller, flatter version of the actual experience of the music. By just blindly following the edited map, we settle for the idea, and we cheat ourselves out of a much, much richer journey. So this brings up a huge question. If the map can be so misleading, why on earth do we cling to it so tightly? I mean, don't get me wrong, tradition and standards can be amazing. They give us a place to start. But at what point does that helpful guide turn into a restrictive cage that stops us from thinking for ourselves? And this is where O.G. Rose points out we make a critical mistake. We see an institutional standard, like the right way to play Mozart, and we interpret it as an authoritative command. We start to think we're not allowed to do it differently, when in reality, the standard is just a suggestion. It's not a law. Rose has this brilliant way of explaining it. Some things just can't be passively inherited. You can be given a bicycle, right? A piece of tech. But no one can just hand down their good health to you. That's something you have to work on yourself every single day. And musical understanding is exactly the same. You can't just inherit your teacher's interpretation. Just imitating them is like trying to inherit their health. It doesn't work. True artistry isn't about reproduction, it's about recreation. It has to be earned and rebuilt from the ground up by every single person who picks up that score. So, if imitation is the problem, what's the solution? Well, we have to shift our mindset from just playing music to actively making it. A music player, their goal is accuracy. They try to replicate what they've heard, following the map to the letter, terrified of making a mistake. But a music maker, their goal is authenticity.
They treat the score not as a set of commands, but as a series of proposals. Making music means asking questions of the score. Why is this loud here? What does this silence feel like? It means having a reason for your choices, not just for a test, but for yourself. It's about recreating the piece in a way that feels intentional, alive, and yours.
And look, this shift isn't just some vague, abstract idea. There are actual teaching methods out there designed to do just this. For example, the Daniel L. Gardner pattern method for piano is built on this really simple three-step process: locate, lock, and liberate. It gives you a structure, but the entire goal is to set you free to create, not just to copy. The whole principle behind an approach like this is to mix practice with creation right from the start. By making direct experience and improvisation the priority, it builds the confidence a musician needs to finally stop just following the map and actually start exploring the territory on their own. And, as you might have figured out by now, this journey from the map to the territory, it goes way beyond a single Mozart sonata. This is really the ultimate takeaway. The biggest mistake you can make isn't playing a wrong note or taking a wrong turn. It's outsourcing your thinking. It's refusing to engage, to ask questions, and to make a conscious choice for yourself. Because think about it, we are handed maps all day, every single day. Textbooks, news articles, social traditions, political ideologies, they're all models. They're useful, but they're incomplete pictures of a really complex reality. And the danger is always, always the same: mistaking the map for the territory. So the final question isn't just for musicians. It's for every single one of us. In a world that's overflowing with maps, how are you going to explore the territory? When you're given a map, will you follow it blindly, or will you have the courage to lift your head, look around, and see what's really there for yourself?